Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
3,
All
2, 1.
Welcome back again to Behind the Why.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, and you know what's really real is that there is some serious stuff going on with the whole atmosphere here in America, and especially as it relates to those of us who identify as Christians. So we want to talk about that today as we get Behind the Why. Before we do that, let me invite you please to go down and hit that like and subscribe button. Take a minute and do that. That way we can make sure we stay in touch with you and you can hear us when we drop a new topic down. And also hit that bell so you get that ding-ding-a-ling. You know that we did it, right?
Yep.
And what do we want you to do? Share.
Yeah.
Share with everybody.
Get the word out,
especially those
Start
who might disagree. I really appreciate lately we've had some great conversations online with people who've read our posts, or seen our posts, and dropped a comment. We had some good dialogue going forth, so I like that. You know, you don't have to agree with us, but we know that you will once you become right. You know, so that's the way it works.
You don't know what you don't know, they say.
Once you get it right, you'll agree with us. That's the way it works. So let's talk about it today.
Yeah.
We're what? 12 Mondays out?
Yeah, I was about to say that. I was like 12 Mondays.
Time to make America great,
it's getting real. That's what I think. Like, it's getting real, you know?
We said this once before, and I'll say it again just for space of topic here, is that once that first shot was fired at Fort Sumter, America was destined to never be the same.
Yeah.
Once it's fired, you can never go back and go, oops, you can't put the bullet back in the muzzle.
Yeah.
And so we are in a civil war.
Oh, yeah. And it feels the same way, where I've heard a lot of people say in the sense that there's a lot at stake.
Mm-hmm. That's
you know?
Who we are as a people is at stake.
Yeah.
We will never, mark my words, be the same.
And both sides recognize it, too.
Oh, yeah. The battle's real.
Yeah.
The battle is real. And you can see, just like in the Civil War of the 1800s, there's skirmishes everywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, there's little skirmishes here, little skirmishes there where people are fighting and shooting at each other and taking property, burning down cities, you know, just like it was in the Civil War. We see the same thing happening now.
Right. It's so easy to get apathetic, though. I know for me, and I've talked to other people, where it's like, there's no real new developments. We know it's the same old crazy. And so it gets to the point where you're kind of like, if I can't do anything, forget it. Like, I'm tired of talking about the same old thing. But
I think that's part of the crazy is that they make you feel like you can't do anything.
Yeah, so then you get apathetic.
Because you think about the Civil War of the 1800s, the American Civil War as we call it, there were parts of this nation that didn't see any battle.
Right.
And so even though the nation was at pitch war and people were dying by the thousands, there were still areas of this country that didn't have a bullet fired.
Right.
Didn't have a bomb go off. And perhaps didn't lose a son or a daughter in the battle. So there's places that are so distant from what's happening that it's easy to make believe that there really isn't anything going on.
Right. And you can live your normal life.
Yeah, but regardless of who wins, it changed the way those people lived, whether they were pro-slavery or anti-slavery. Once the Civil War ended, there was an ideology that became dominant in the land. And so we see that. We see that in history, and we're seeing it come to pass today. So as we begin to think about this, Nicole Jones works for CBS, made this statement about property that is being destroyed that can be replaced is really not a crime. I mean, it's that type of circular reasoning or stupidity that allows people to continue in this vein of stupidity, this vein of vanity.
And it's funny because if you turn it, I'm sure, on Nicole Jones and you destroy her home, which could be replaced, her tune would change.
Oh gosh, yes.
100%.
Yes, and so we hear people say this to justify allowing what they believe to be their side to progress. It's the same stupidity I saw amongst black people when Joe Biden said, well, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And all these black people came to his defense. Well, that's not what it's like. They were justifying it because they want him to win. They want his side to win. So, because if you turn the tables just a little bit, like you just said, you go to Nicole Jones' house and burn her house down or bomb her car, she would have a problem with it. And if she says she wouldn't, she's lying.
Well, you know what else got me about talking about Joe Biden? The most recent, stupidest, racist thing he said that also people didn't talk about, right?
Oh my God.
Or some people did. But anyways, he gets on and says in one of his like little town hall, I don't know what it was, Zoom meetings, and says that unlike African Americans, Hispanics are diverse in their thinking. Basically saying that like black people are not diverse.
Like the robots. Black folk.
I was like, which is it's in alignment with his, if you ain't black, you ain't black.
You ain't just right, and he's
Joe.
just can take the black vote for granted the way he does. Well, that's only, on one hand, that's the small pebble being thrown into the stone, because what we look at is that, the Bible talks about when a man's ways please God, God causes even his enemies to be at peace with him.
Right.
And so what I am concerned about is not so much about Joe Biden, because the nation is going to go, and I think, on the other hand, if God's people don't start praying about this election, we may very well see the tide of this war change, because we know all the powers that be are arrayed against moving toward the right.
Right.
And when I say the right, I'm not saying Republican, I mean toward rightness, i.e., you look at the Democrat platform, and it's about killing babies.
Oh my gosh.
It's about destroying the family. It's about destruction of our society as we know it.
Right.
Open borders, higher taxes, all those things that's going to really turn America into a truly socialist country.
Yep.
And so if you want to move away from that, we really need to be praying. And for those people who call themselves Christians, again, I cannot get away from this. I know people say I beat this single horse, but as a Christian, I just don't understand how you can make peace in your mind with the killing of babies.
Well, here's the thing, and I was just thinking the other day, right? I'm like, how do people who say they're Christians, how can you align yourself with right now the left and Joe Biden's platform, right? And so I was like, well, what does he really stand for? Right. Because I know what I've heard. I know when he was with Obama, right? So I'm like, I had that in my mind. But the other day I went to joebiden.com, and I challenge everyone to do it if you're planning to vote for Joe Biden.
Especially if you say you're a Christian.
Especially if you're a Christian. Go to this website, and you scroll down. Okay, I have a little video I'm going to put with this. And you go to Joe's Vision, right? Yes. And I guarantee that most people, because we live in a generation where we want information quick, right? I know. What I look for, I oftentimes look for headlines. Right. Okay? And then I see headlines that interest me, I click on them. Right. Most people do stuff like that.
Most people don't go that far.
Right?
Most people don't go that far.
And so basically, if you go to this, he has a list of all of these different things that he is planning to do, right? His platform. And it's all identity politics. It says Joe's plan for Hispanic community, Joe's plan for the Jewish community, Joe's plan for Catholics, man, even Catholics, Joe's plan for women, Joe's plan for LGBTQ plus women, Joe's plan for black community, okay? And it goes on and on and on.
And the thing is that you never stop and say, what is Joe's plan for America?
Right.
You see, because we have gotten so fractured, and I'm sad to say, this fracture was really accentuated under Obama.
Right.
He brought in this idea of division. Identity politics took its highest level in recent years under President Obama. And now we see the Democrat Party I would start to say being led by Biden, but that would be a lie. I
was like, no, he's a puppet. He's not even.
What's the word? You got somebody in place?
A puppeteer?
No, the little thing that's out front. Not a hit. I can't think of the word.
Scapegoat? Or
no, he's not. He's guilty.
I know. I was just wondering what you're trying to say.
Figurehead. That's it. Figurehead.
Okay. Yeah.
He's the figurehead of the Democrat Party, but he's not in charge. He even said himself, and I hate to keep harping on Joe because he's such an easy target. That
oh, that's sad.
That I am a transitional president.
Right.
No, we don't vote for transitional presidents. We vote for people to lead.
Right.
And so we've come to this place of this lie to where nothing really matters. I referenced that passage earlier where God said, if a man's ways please him. So what concerns me is the Christians in this nation who are so willing to dismiss the truth in order to have a democratic headship because they have been led to believe that Democrats are on their side. And my point is, and I'll be quiet in a second, is that there is judgment aligned with that. Yeah. That's the problem. There's a judgment aligned with that. And so when we look at the Christians in this country who sat back quietly and allowed slavery to rise up and get a foothold in this nation, and even though they were vocal to a degree, and we had the abolitionist movement, but still, the Christians of this nation suffered right along with the non-Christians when God judged America. And have no doubt, the American Civil War was a judgment of God on slavery. And so we have seen God's opinion of slavery.
Right.
And so now what we have not seen in this country is the judgment of God for abortion. And when you start thinking about over 70 million babies killed in this country, we're storing up a judgment.
Well, and that's one thing I was going to say when I was talking about the website, Joe's website and his platform, how oftentimes we just look at the headline and we don't click to read about it. And I would challenge people to go and actually read what he's saying. Because if you go through and see it, this is going to be the most pro-abortion administration I think the United States has ever seen. Because Kamala Harris.
You think it was bad under Obama?
Yeah,
and it was horrible under Obama.
But both of them, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they're okay with abortion through 9 months.
Yes.
And they are against the Hyde Amendment, which means they want all of your taxpayer dollars, like not all of it, but they want your taxpayer dollars to pay for and fund abortion.
This is the thing about liberals.
And Planned Parenthood.
Liberals don't mind spending money.
No,
they just don't spend their own money.
Exactly, they spend your money.
You see, they spend other people's money. They don't spend their own money. Because you look at, I was looking at again last night. I was looking at Nancy Pelosi. She's been in politics her whole life, and she's a multimillionaire. A multimillionaire as a servant of the public. Yeah. How does that work? I don't understand how that works.
I know some of them say, well, it's the books I write on the side. And I'm like...
You be lying. You be lying. That's what that's all about. And so you look at these people and you go, how in the world do we keep justifying letting these people lead? And so I talked, especially among black people, and they're like, oh yeah, Kamala this, Kamala. I'm like, guys, where are your principles?
Right.
And what was that commercial we saw the other day, Kamala? It was just a debate.
No, it wasn't a commercial.
It's a debate.
No, she was on...
it's a debate.
Who was it?
It's a debate.
It was one of those late night, I think, shows.
It's just a debate.
But anyways...
I can lie all I want. It's just a debate.
But the guy was saying, so, I believe you when you say that you do support Biden now, but in the past, you are so... And then...
it's a debate!
Because she had called Biden a racist.
Oh, yeah.
That she believed his accusers
that he was a rapist.
And it's a debate! And then in the video... Okay, I don't even need to say it because you just said it. But, basically she just says that, she doesn't take it seriously.
Wait. So the question you have to ask Kamala is this. Were you lying then, or are you lying now?
Because
either way, you lying.
It's like that, but I think the truth of the matter. I was talking to my mother about this actually, and I sent her that video, and then she had said, she's like, yeah, nothing's real. I'm like, exactly.
Well, not with them.
Exactly, it's not
nothing's real. There's no baseline.
And I think that's what people need to realize. It's nothing real. It's all they all got their degree in Hollywood.
And that's the question we look at when I see people want to jump on the bandwagon with people like Kamala. I'm saying you're throwing your hat in with a person who has no moral baseline.
Right.
You are choosing this person as your leader. You are saying this person represents my beliefs. And for those of you who try to sit here and say, well, I'm not pulling for that. I'm just voting for the Democrat Party. No, you understand. And this is where I just did a presentation not long ago for a local police department, where we talked about the lie of compartmentalization. There is no little part of your head or your heart you put something in that doesn't affect the rest of you.
Right.
It affects all of you. And so when you sit here and say that I'm voting for this or I'm going to allow this, then you're in fact endorsing abortion. Now you may sit here and say, I'm not endorsing abortion, but if you make it legal, if you're voting to make it legal, if you're voting to support it, then you are as guilty as those who stood back and said slavery, well, I don't want to have a slave, and I think it's wrong to have a slave, but I can't stop you from having a slave. You just got to answer to God for your decisions. How stupid is that? And we asked a young man that once before. So if I get to choose to kill somebody, in this case a baby, then it's just between me and God, right? I just got to answer to God for it. He goes, yeah, it's a sin, but you got to answer. It ain't my job to judge you for sin. I said, what if I decide I want to kill your mama? Well, that's different. I said, no. I get to kill somebody, but I'll just take it up with God. I want to kill your mama, but I'm going to go ahead and just take it up with God. You ain't got nothing to say about it. Well, that's different. How is it different? Oh, because mama means something to you.
Right. That's personal to you.
And so we come to all this. You've got to be people of principle. Since this whole Black Lives Matter trash has really hit the fan and really gone big, you have to look at what has it produced.
Right.
And lately, the latest thing it's produced is Kamala Harris. It's fruit of the poison tree.
And what got me, I had to tweet at Kamala on Twitter. Granted, I know that she doesn't see it, but other people do. And so that's why I do it, because I'm like, someone else will see what I'm saying. But anyways, because she was talking about how Trump and Pence have done nothing for the coronavirus, and they're really the problem with what's happened.
Right.
And I was like, man, this woman does not mind lying.
No, she loves to lie.
Because in her tweet, she was saying, people have had to say had to have loved ones die and couldn't say goodbye. I'm like, yeah, because Democratic crazy leaders wouldn't allow people to meet and have a funeral.
Right.
So you're blaming Trump for something that's on the state level, local level.
When you
Democratic
talk about
leaders
something,
did.
when you talk about something that has a lower death rate than the regular flu, and don't get me wrong, any death is bad.
And it has killed people, just like the flu.
Any
it's not
death
good.
is bad.
It's bad.
But something that has a lower death rate than the regular flu, This is a statistic I learned today. It has a lower death rate than the flu immunization. The flu immunization has killed more people than COVID-19.
That makes you wonder about the COVID-19 vaccine. I wonder how many people that will kill.
The regular influenza vaccine has been instrumental in more deaths than COVID-19. And yet we have people walking around with masks. I saw a guy the other day riding a motorcycle with a mask on with no helmet. How stupid is that? No helmet, but with a cloth paper mask on his face. I guess if you died, then at least better bury your smile because your head be like smeared across the pavement. And so I'm just like, this stuff is just dumb, people. Guys coming out of buildings, putting masks on when they get outside in the fresh air.
No, here's what makes me laugh. And this is like the most funny thing. You go into a restaurant with a mask on, and you sit at your table, and then you can take your mask off.
Everybody has their mask off eating, but yet you have to wear a mask coming through the door.
It's really funny.
Or you're riding down the street with a mask on in a car by yourself. We have gotten to the point where we have stopped thinking. And again, I'm thinking about the condition. Again, we're talking about, say, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And this is what we're looking at right now in this nation. We are looking at the sin of this nation really coming to fruition. It's like all of a sudden, and you were in the dark doing your whatever it is your little freaky thing was, and somebody walks in the room and clicks the light on.
Right.
And now all the stuff you've been doing is coming to light. And so now we see this. We see the freakiness. We see these policies that the Democrat cities have had that are destroying their people. And obviously you look at California and Chicago and all these places with these Democrat mayors and governors, and you're going, your cities and states are falling apart. And then when they push this stupidity, then they want to try and blame Trump for it.
Right. Well, what gets me just like talking about the stupidity, right, of what's happening. So just recently, the other day, Mayor de Blasio of New York had announced that they're going to cancel the lighting because they have the memorial every year for 9/11 where the two lights go, and it's really, it's great. Honestly, to remember that. And everyone who had died on 9/11. And he's going to cancel it because of coronavirus, right? I'm like, the same mayor that allowed, no, not just that, who was outside with people painting a mural saying Black Lives Matter without even the right, the right permits to do so, okay?
The same mayor that, oh God.
So the same mayor, he's going to cancel a thing that would actually have, that all of us Americans get behind, you know what I mean? That we could get behind that. And you're going to cancel it?
And this is the same mayor that told the police union that they couldn't paint Police Lives Matters on the street.
Right.
After he painted Black Lives Matters on the street.
It's like,
And it's like, wait. Anything that divides us,
you're going to allow.
You support.
Well, and then what's cool, though, is the police union in New York said, we're doing the lighting. We're doing it. I'm like,
de Blasio is being sued right now by a police union for discrimination there. And it's about time. This is what I mean when I say that the people of this country has got to step it up. This is something we've experienced out here in Idaho. You all know about the mayor in Boise, who's very extremely liberal, and I think she exposed herself more than she intended to, and now she's the subject of a recall, she and the city councilman. And so she's pushing back. She's not going away without a fight, which we would expect. She's trying to drink out both sides of her mouth at the same time, and we have seen, since I've been here, the liberal influence in Idaho, and it's been slowly but surely trying to progress in the north end of Boise, trying to spread its cancerous disease throughout the state. And you see this now in Boise, where just recently there's this new sign that's been put
It got taken down, though.
It should have never been let up.
Yeah.
But the people who trying to create a problem where there's been no problem. The sign, and we'll put an image of that. About this country was built by black and brown people, and I guess in other words, white folk did nothing in this country, and they need to leave. And it's just so stupid. You're going to set people apart against each other.
And not only that, the billboard had a picture of a cop car on fire. I'm like, oh, that's not threatening.
And this is the same city where the police chief, a liberal from Portland, comes in here, gets by that same liberal mayor, comes in and then makes this statement that he didn't want his officers to wear the thin blue line gear because he didn't want to be divisive. But then now, because of him, because of her, because of the city councilman, we're starting to see these things come ahead. They were never a problem before.
Right, creating
now
problems.
They're making the problem. And this is the same thing I see again with this whole Black Lives Matters thing, with this whole Antifa thing, with this whole virus of liberalism, this socialism is trying to take ground here in America. We're starting to see problems where there haven't been any problems.
Right.
And it's like, why are we exacerbating this? Why we? And you was talking about this young man. What was his name? Darius Sessions. That killed this little white kid. Killed him. And it's like we see situations like that where that's not even newsworthy.
Not till a week after. Yeah. Finally, CNN.
It's not even newsworthy because it didn't fit the narrative. This was a black man who killed a white kid.
And they didn't even say the race, which is so funny. Because if it was the other way around, it would have said black man killed. If it was a white man killed a little black boy, shot him in the head in front of his family, it'd have been white man execute the innocent white black child. But this one, it just says man kills boy.
And it's just what I'm trying to get you to understand, those of you who are watching, is I want you to ask, just like the program says, why? Get behind the why.
Right.
Why do you think the national media plays the song for you that they play? Because they want you to dance a certain tune.
Yep.
They're trying to control you. And you have to think. You have to ask yourself this question. Let me jump back just for a second. I had a friend of mine from back home, and I challenged him to this. I said, look at the history. Look at the history. You always want to say what the Republican Party did or the Democrat Party did. So look at the actual history. Not what people are saying to you right now. Check the record. And you will find that all these things you were giving credit to the Democrat Party for were the things that Republicans did. And all the things you accuse the Republicans of are the things that the Democrats did, including the Klan, including Jim Crow, including Black Code. All those things were sponsored by the Democrat Party.
Right.
And yet, when you challenge people to look at it, they don't want to. And then they push back. And then they'll grab onto somebody like Kamala because she's brown.
Right. Well, one thing that got me is Agbar. He just said that public schools, he said basically the public school system is systemically racist. But the way he said it, he said ran by the Democratic Party. And I'm like, honestly, if you look at it that way, it's true. We talked about this before in inner cities, right? The school to pipeline, right? Or the pipeline to prison. I'm saying that incorrectly, but that's exactly and that's what he's talking about. And I was like, yeah, but look at where is it happening? Democratic ran cities.
Look at this back. Go back, Thomas Sowell, and this is a gentleman that you really need to make yourself aware. He's 92 years old. He won't be with us long.
Is he 92 already?
Yeah, he's in his 90s. Just a precious resource. He was saying in his, I think it was in his book, The Racism of Economics. He talked about when he was a young man growing up in Harlem, before the Democrat Party became the boyfriend of the black people, that the unemployment rate for a young black boy at 17 years old was about 9%. He said now it's quadruple that almost. Why? Because the Democrat Party been helping us.
Right.
We were doing a lot better.
Their help hurts.
Yeah, we were doing a lot better before we started taking help from those people.
Well, I saw one person, they posed this question, and they said, just tell me one policy that's come from Kamala Harris or Joe Biden that has helped minority communities. Just one. Oh, my
God. Joe Biden has been in the Democrat Party since Abraham Lincoln was in the White House. And he hadn't done anything but resist black folks since he's been there. He is one of the biggest race baiters besides Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. They all three are the same.
Right.
I was watching this video the other night, a documentary, and it's called The Worst Fight in Boxing History. And in this fight was promoted by Don King. And there on the sideline, they went fighting, and because they called it the worst fight because the guy was really severely injured in this fight. But they're all palling it up on the side of the King on the road was who? Jesse Jackson, Donald Trump, and Al Sharpton. All buddies up. And I'm thinking, now this is the same Al Sharpton, the same Jesse Jackson. I want to talk about how big a racist that Donald Trump was back in the 70s when this fight was going on. When that fight was actually recorded, and he was supposed to be this big racist, how come they palling around with him?
Because he wasn't a big racist.
At ringside seats. How come they palling around with him at ringside seats if he's this big giant racist that they can't?
Going back to the question we always ask, right? Why?
That's what I'm saying.
Say why?
And so why are they lying? Why are they so willing to call the man a racist now and forget all this palling around they did back when it was supposed to be happening? See, nobody accusing him of it. There's no legitimate accusation of him being a racist today. That's the whole problem. They go back to the South Carolina thing. Okay, show me what he said in South Carolina was racist.
If you listen to it 1,000 times.
1,000 times.
And it's a lie.
And so they all come up with, well, back in the 70s, he wouldn't rent his apartments to people of color. I don't know if it was true or not, but I understand that was some kind of whole repertoire. But if it was, 40 years ago, that's a lot of things I did 40 years ago. I am so glad nobody had a videotape up.
Right.
The question is, what am I doing today?
Right.
That's the question. And today, what is Donald Trump doing? more jobs for black folk than any president in the last 50 years.
Right.
More jobs
I will
for
say this,
Hispanics than the last 50 years.
And you and I have talked about this recently, how, like, I think, honestly, Trump should win by a landslide just because of what's happening.
If it was honest.
However, because there's so much corruption going on, I'm like, there's an actual chance that he might lose.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And even he said it. He was saying this is going to be the most corrupt election in the history
and now
of
the court has challenged President Trump to prove that there was mail-in fraud. And it's like, all the mess-ups, all the breakdowns happening, you know, and rather than erring to the side of caution,
right.
These liberal courts want to go, well, those thousands upon thousands upon thousands of ballots that got messed up was just a fluke. And it's a fluke every time the Democrats do it. But rather than saying, hey, since there are so many mess-ups in that system, let's use a system that we know works. You start letting people mail in ballots, guys, you're going to have folk been dead for 500 years voting. You have people who vote in several different cities, the same person. And you have people still in line. How do I know that to be true? Look at what they're doing now.
Right.
Look at if you don't think they will jack up the election, look at what they're doing now.
Even President Trump had said in an interview with Charlie Kirk that one of his friends had a son that had passed away. Right. And he got an absentee ballot. And it came to his dad's house. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" Like,
how's that going to happen?
Right?
That's what I'm saying. You know, I look at this and you say, "Well, people won't mess up the system like this." And you go back to right now. You look in places in California, Detroit, Seattle, Portland, where all these cities are burning up, and you can't tell me all the people in that city want their police department to burn down. You can't tell me all those people want to defund their police, but you have a select few who decided this is what we want the way the city to look, and they're just doing it as if they're kings and monarchs. Yeah. And now when the city gets all burnt down and charred, somebody got to pay for that. Yeah. And all those people who had no vote in it now get taxed.
Who didn't want that to happen to their city.
Get taxed.
Right.
So you tell me the same person who will do that kind of crime on camera won't lie? Right. With a ballot behind the... Man, be for real.
I know. Come on. And it goes back to really the foundation of your worldview, right? So some people, I've talked to many, who think, well, fundamentally, people are good. And it's like, no, okay? When you recognize the truth that fundamentally people are sinners... People are bad. These things don't surprise you, right? It's like people will... If they can cheat, they will.
I'll tell you this. This is the truth. I was a police officer for 31 years before I retired. And... I saw people from every walk of life commit just about every type of crime you can commit that you can think of. I've seen dear little grandmothers who are child molesters. I've seen great grandfathers who are murderers. I've seen 4 generations of the same family in jail all at the same time. It doesn't matter. Black, white, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, you name an ethnic group, we got them in jail. They've been there. They're there and they're doing crimes. And we think about this. If you look at human history, you can't look at one society in all of human history where we didn't see this same evil reflected. You can go back to Babylon, to the Assyrians.
Nothing new under the sun.
Nothing. You can go Alexander the Great, horrible man. You know, he was a great military genius, but a horrible man. And his 5 generals that took over after him, horrible people. Look at Rome. Horrible, Greece,
horrible, evil.
Hedonistic. I mean, just go all through human history. You can't show me one society where you had people go, Kumbaya,
you know what? This is just making me I was telling my friend the other day, I was like, if I did not know that God was sovereign, I would be stressing out. Yes. I really would. I was like, because the world's going to hell in a handbasket.
Oh, downhill.
They're trying to destroy this nation. Yes. And then I get so irritated and fed up with these people who... in the name of God, right? They're saying, because I love Jesus, okay, guys, we gotta vote blue all the way down. I'm like, how? Please justify to me, okay? Just look at the platform. I really want to challenge people.
Look at the Bible.
Right? Even Biden had said he wants to legalize, when he's president, that someone can change their legal gender, right, to X, or they can change it to M or F or X. They can choose. And I'm like, that's going to cause a lot of confusion and problems in our nation. Like, but this is the stuff he's going to do.
It's all fine and dandy until some pervert goes into the dressing room with your daughter or your wife. Then it's a problem. Right. Before that, it's all theoretical, right?
Right now,
it's just like the walls, right?
The trafficking is crazy too, and always has been, right?
It always has been.
And I feel like all of these I know people hate to hear this, but all these like leftist ideals, right? Decriminalizing sex work, all these different things. I'm like, it's just feeding into the perversion that allows for kids to be exploited and all these other things in our world.
You know what, guys?
So I'm like,
Sodom and Gomorrah didn't just happen.
No.
It was made.
It was made.
For those of you who are Bible people, you know what I
Right.
mean by Sodom and Gomorrah, where sex ruled everything, hedonism, all that was, it wasn't just homosexuality, it was all that went along with it.
Right.
And so when you think about that and the judgment that fell on that nation, now if you believe in God, if you don't believe in God, this is all fairy tale, it makes no difference to you. And I understand your position. So you who do not believe in God, I understand you saying, oh, Jesus, you know, the bunny rabbit and Christmas, all in the same bag. I understand that. But for those of you who say you are Christians, understand the Bible says that I am the Lord, I am God, I change not.
Right.
What he is saying is that what he saw as evil yesterday is still evil today. And so when he judged Sodom and Gomorrah for the sins of that great nation, he's going to judge America for the same sins. When he judged, was it the way he sent Jonah down to
Nineveh.
You know, when Nineveh repented, God said, okay, I won't destroy you. But when Nineveh went back and began to commit those sins, judgment came. So God is merciful. That's why I say to you right now, there is time for us as a nation to repent. Those of us who are believers, you have got to stop thinking with the color of your skin.
Right.
You've got to stop thinking with the content of your wallet. And you've got to start thinking with what the Bible says is true. Because if you don't, you're going to be judged. We're all going to be judged together because God's going to judge this nation.
Right.
And the Bible is very clear. The righteous suffer with the unrighteous when judgment falls. And so just like Germany had a vibrant Christian community. I mean, it is the nation of the Reformation. I mean, Germany had a glorious Christian heritage. But come the 20th century, Germany took a turn the wrong way.
Yep.
And it kept sinking, and it kept sinking, and it got humbled. The first level of judgment came in World War I, where Germany was humbled. And you would think at that time they would have turned back to God, but they didn't. They turned to a form of godliness, but they denied the power thereof.
Right.
And as they continued in that realm of darkness, there came a little voice that rose up as Kamala, Hitler, and that voice rose up.
That was not an accident.
And
Start
speaking all these socialist rules.
Yeah.
And we're going to give you everything. We're going to take care of you. Don't worry about it. Just give us control and we'll take care of you. And what did they do? They took care of one segment of society at the expense of another segment of society. And then, lo and behold, they began to persecute and kill their own citizens. And it wasn't long before the final judgment of God fell on Germany. And Germany was utterly destroyed again. And for what? For 10 years of what felt like dominance?
Right.
And it wasn't even true dominance then because half the nation weren't part of the Nazis. And there was a lot of people in the German army that weren't Nazis. They were dying for stuff that they didn't even believe in, but they were part of the military, so they followed their orders. The nation was being stripped of its resources so that a certain elite element would have all the luxuries they had. While people in Germany were starving, Hitler and his group were having parties, sex parties, drug parties. I mean, there were so many things that Hitler got into, methamphetamine. There was so much darkness there. And so we look at this and we go, what did they gain? They got 10 years maybe where they cost the world a lot of lives. But look at the backlash.
But then you also look, that's just Germany.
Just Germany.
You know, we can see other nations that followed that same way.
Think about it. Like I said, Rome.
So,
Rome fell by saying England. England itself used to be a great lighthouse for the gospel. England is a mere shadow of itself.
Right.
It has an element, a remaining element of the church that I think is his preserving power, but that light's flickering. That light. You know, let me do this. There's so much going on right now in the nation that we could talk for another 3 hours, and I think we've actually gone long on this segment. So I apologize we went so long, but this is the time for America to really make this decision. The church really needs to get its head out of the sand and pursue Christ.
Because I feel like, it's countdown time and people need to get real. I heard this one pastor, he's been saying a lot of prophetic things. When it's prophetic, he's like, we'll see, right? It's one of those things where it's like, well, time will tell. And he even says so. He's like, guys, I have dreams. I don't know. He's like, if it's true, it's true. If it's not, I apologize, but ultimately, time will tell. But even he's been talking about, bracing yourself and praying. He said because he believes things are going to get worse before they get better. He's like, in that case, he's like, especially those who are believers, he's like, pray. Because time's going to come where we're going to be able to see who truly belongs to the Lord and who doesn't,
That's what judgment does.
That's what it does. It purifies. And I'm like, and I think the church in America, we do need that. I don't want that. But I was like, because it's like, that's kind of freaky.
Nobody asks for judgment. Nobody wants to be judged. Nobody wants that.
But it's coming, so we need to prepare ourselves.
Yeah, and we don't want that.
And pray for our nation.
We don't want that for you. We don't want that for us. We don't want it for our nation. We want to see the glory of God revisited. And that is one thing we mean when we say make America great again. Let's fall on our knees.
I saw these people got together and they had this virtual meeting, I believe it was, and it was talking about basically like redeeming I'm getting their words wrong, but redeem the covenant or something. And basically just talking about the fact that America was founded on biblical principle. Let's return to that. And that's what they were talking about.
Let's make it great. Let's get back to truth, because that's what matters.
That's what matters.
But you know what we say? Get behind the why. That's what you got to do. You got to get behind. Don't just listen to what people say, guys. Don't even listen to what I say. Just listen to what I say. Check me, fact check me, and I'll meet you in the dialogue box. We'll talk. We'll go back and forth. I'll show you why I believe what I believe, and you can tell me why you believe what you believe.
12 Mondays.
12 Mondays.
So
to Super Tuesday. Well, until then, stay behind the why. Get on your knees. Look up.
Yep.
From up high that's where your help draws from, right?
Yep.
All right. Look to the Lord. From whence cometh my help. Until next time, the Lord bless you and keep you. Peace. We love you. We're out. Boom.